Hello, everyone, and welcome to the City of Chicago Delegate Agency iSupplier Invoice Creation Workshop. So first, we are going to go to the home screen of our new iSupplier portal, and then we are going to select the City of Chicago iSupplier portal with invoice creation, and then expand the option to select home page. Expect it to be a little slow as we make sure we are ironing out all of the kinks. Wonderful. So we are now in the iSupplier portal. So up at the top on the left-hand side, we can see different tabs that we are going to be exploring today. The two main ones that we are going to be discussing are the Orders tabs and the Finance tab. Under Orders, we can view contracts and releases, and under Finance, we can create invoices and view payments. So we're going to go ahead and click on the Orders tab. This is where we can view all of our agreements. So the most important thing we want to look at is this PO number. For today's purposes, we're going to be using this PO number 152525 as our example. We also want to look at the document type. Remember, if it is a global blanket agreement, you cannot export that information. You cannot create an invoice. You want to make sure it says standard PO. You can also select any of these agreements and export it just by selecting, and then up in the right-hand corner, selecting Export. So we are now going to navigate the Finance tab. This is where we can create invoices, view invoices, and view any payments. So the first thing that we are going to do is go over how to create an invoice. So under Finance, we are going to go ahead and type in that PO number that we saw on the previous screen. And this is new. We want to make sure that we are putting our name, our title, and acknowledging that we are authorized by the organization to submit requests for reimbursement and reports to the City of Chicago. So next we are going to type in that PO number once more and hit go. So this is where all the line items are going to come up. This is where we can select items to add to our invoice. So I'm going to select fringe benefits and indirect and select add to invoice. If you look down below, this is also where we can select items to remove them from our invoice. So if I decided I actually don't want the indirect costs, I can remove them from our invoice. And now we just have fringe benefits selected. So we're going to go ahead and click next. So this is where we are actually creating our invoice. So we're going to start up here with some invoice details. The first thing we need is the invoice number. And what that is first our PO number, what we typed in earlier. Next, it is the fiscal year. And then it is the sequential number, whatever invoice, if it's the first invoice, second invoice, etc. Invoice date, today's date. Invoice description, that is going to involve entering the period covered, followed by the two-letter program code. So for example, if we're doing August, we would enter 08, 01, 21, 2, 08, 31, 21, and let's just do public health. For date, goods, and services received, you go ahead and select the end date of the expenditure covered period in the format of date, month, and year. So you can choose from the selection. So then since my last day was August 31st, I'm going to go ahead and click August 31st, and then you type in the department number. So this is where we also want to add attachments. If you see here, we can choose to add any attachments. You need 3 required attachments. First is the invoice forms, which includes the invoice summary, invoice salary expenditure only, and invoice non-personnel expenditure form. Make sure you enter invoice in the title section and then attach those invoice copies. Next, we're going to need the supporting documents, which is like payroll registration forms, not invoice copy for non-personnel cost. Make sure you enter support in the title section. And finally, you need any certifications, such as the voucher certification form and tax payment certification form. And for this one, you're going to want to make sure you enter certificate in the title section. A helpful tip, only upload these 3 attachments for each invoice, and supporting documentation should be in order of the billed expense. So we have everything in the invoice. This is also where we can edit the quantity. So obviously, if we put in everything, it is going to completely deplete the funds. So we're going to put in a lower amount today for our example, and then click Next. So this is where we can actually see this invoice that we have created. We see up here on the right-hand side our invoice information. We have the quantity to invoice. We have the customer. So we can go ahead and click Next. So we are going to scroll down. This is once more where you are going to put your name, your title, and go ahead and acknowledge. Name and title and acknowledge. This is just any terms and conditions. You are saying you certify to the best of your knowledge and belief that the report is true, complete, and accurate. And then down in the right-hand corner at the bottom, you can go ahead and click Submit. So we're not going to submit this today because this is just an example. We're going to go ahead and come back to home. So we are back at home. Let's go ahead and click into the invoice creation. So you can also go ahead and edit any invoices. If changes are required prior to submission, you can just select that back button. But if changes are required after you submit, you just go back to Finance. And under Invoice Actions, you can just search for that invoice number, hit go, and then it's going to come up right here, and you can update it or you can cancel it if necessary. You can also view any attachments and edit them if necessary. Remember, every time we come to this page, you do have to submit your name, your title, and go ahead and acknowledge that you are authorized by the organization to submit any requests. So after you have submitted your invoice, delegate agencies have an obligation to regularly check the invoice status and take an appropriate action accordingly. So for rejection, under the following circumstances, an invoice may be rejected if there is an incorrect payment site selected, incorrect dates for goods and services received, incorrect release material, the expenditures covered in the 2-year period, or any other reasons. The delegate agencies have an obligation to follow up with the rejection notification and take an appropriate action to fix the root cause for rejection accordingly. When a delegate agency resubmits the rejected invoice, the original invoice number should be used and followed by a suffix RJ. For example, if we're using 152525, then the year 21, and then the sequential number 01, and then RJ for rejection at the end. So when a delegate agency resubmits invoices to recover previously deleted cost, please include the suffix R followed by the invoice number. Please use A for invoices that have amended cost only, meaning you have submitted your original invoice and forgot to include costs pertaining to the exact same period covered. Same invoice number, same voucher, only adding on costs related to the original invoice. So a few helpful tips for navigating the iSupplier portal for invoice creation. Make sure you're using Internet Explorer browser and avoiding going back and forth between different browsers. Make sure you enable pop-ups and check internet security settings. Check your email and junk mailbox for the City of Chicago mailer notifications. Check your attachment submissions prior to submitting your invoice. Make sure your online discussion is sent to the buyer only. Make sure to save the draft often. Make sure to check attachment submissions prior to submitting an RFP. Make sure you click Validate prior to submission so you can identify any missing requirements. And prior to submitting, make sure you enter your name first, then click Certify. Updating agency information and user access, remember to enter the email address before granting access to organizational users. If you have any questions, you can contact the iSupplier helpline, which is customer support at cityofchicago.org, or by calling 312-744-4357. If you have any questions, there is also a PowerPoint on the City of Chicago website that goes over all of this information, but that concludes our tutorial on how to create invoices with the iSupplier portal.